Hello again, everyone. I'm Joe Longinusa, welcoming you to another edition of Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where industry leaders, golf professionals, and legends all come and discuss the great game we love so much. So without further ado, let's turn it over to our host to tell us who's next on the tee. Chris, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me again this morning on Next on the Tee. We're brought to you today by the great folks over at the French Lick Resort. Folks, they're Pete Dye and Donald Ross design courses, ranked number 1 and number 2 in the state of Indiana by Golf Week, and also the site of last year's Senior PGA Championship and the LPGA Legends Championship. What a great place. Check them out online at FrenchLick.com. We're also sponsored by our friends over at The Leather Shop, makers of top-quality, custom-made leather dress, casual, and golf shoes. Folks, do your feet a favor and put them inside shoes. They're going to keep them feeling good and looking good all day long. You can find them online at the-leather-shop.com. Also want to welcome our new friends and sponsors, the World Golf Village, located in historic St. Augustine, Florida. It's also the home of the World Golf Hall of Fame. No matter the time of year, folks, or the length of your stay, World Golf Village is sure to deliver an unmatched experience with your friends and family and memories that are going to last an absolute lifetime for you. For more information, visit them online at worldgolfvillage.com or give them a call, 1-800-948-4653. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and today I have the privilege of sharing two great guests with you. First up is going to be Mike Landry. Mike is a Class A teaching professional out at Westminster, California. He's getting up at dark 30 for me out there, so which, I can't tell you how much I really appreciate Mike doing that. He teaches out of Manhattan Beach Marriott Golf Club, and I certainly look forward to talking with Mike here in just a few moments. Following him, I'll be joined by a great friend of the show and a member of my Dream Fivesome. Folks, you hear me talking about him all the time on the show, Eric Johnson. Eric is a Golf Magazine Top 100 instructor. He is also the director of instruction at Oakmont Country Club. So as we all prepare to take a look at the U.S. Open, we're all starting to get excited for the next major, right? So next one's going to be the U.S. Open up at Oakmont next month. We'll talk to Eric about how preparations are going at Oakmont and who some of the players might be getting in some practice rounds already up there. Eric is going to join me a little bit later in this half hour. So we're going to have a lot of fun today, folks. It's going to be another insightful show for you. I'm so glad that you're here to take the journey with us over the next hour or so. But let's start the show off right, and that's by helping you get your morning started off right, and that's by going to check out our friends over at Aroma Ridge, because they offer an array of the finest mountain-grown gourmet coffees that you're going to find anywhere on the planet, folks. You can find them online at aromaridge.com. Their secret? Hand-selected beans from a variety of golf-producing countries from around the world. They roast those beans to perfection by their very own roast master. Their coffees are roasted to order. And if you like a little flavor in your coffee like I do, they have almost any flavor that you can imagine. Plus, they can even mix and match flavors so that you can create one of your very own. And their biscotti cookies. Can we talk biscotti cookies here, folks? Fantastic. And not only are their coffees great, they are fantastic people as well. Check them out and online. All their great products available at aromaridge.com. And like I mentioned a moment ago, Next on the Tee is brought to you by our friends up at the French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana. Folks, you want to talk about a spectacular resort to both play golf and to just relax and enjoy yourself, which you're not going to find any place any better anywhere on the planet than the French Lick Resort. Go to FrenchLick.com to see for yourself. Let's hear from our friends up there.
Now's the time to plan that golf getaway you've been dreaming about at French Lick Resort. We have new Golf Academy packages for 2016, guaranteed to take your game to the next level. Try our one-day Quick Fix Academy for golf emergencies. For more in-depth learning, try the Game Changer, designed to make you a better player. Our staff professionals are ready to work with you at French Lick Resort. Did you know there's only one place in the country that you can play courses designed by two members of the World Golf Hall of Fame on the same property? The Pete Dye and Donald Ross courses at French Lick Resort make us an ultimate golf destination for 2016. Check out the Ultimate Golf Package, the Hall of Fame Package, and other great offerings at FrenchLick.com. Let 2016 be that year you finally take your dream golf getaway at French Lick Resort. Play the courses champions play.
Yeah, folks, I promise you, it is spectacular. My family and I can't wait to get back up there again this year. The French Lick Resort needs to be on your list of places to stay and play. And oh, by the way, my friends, they have a casino right there on the property as well. For more information and to book your stay, go to FrenchLick.com. And every week here on Next on the Tee, we like to kick off the show by saluting the brave men and women serving in every branch of our military who are tuning in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. We want to thank all of you for your daily sacrifices that both you and your families are making to protect our freedoms and our liberties. We also want to thank our veterans, for all that you and your families have done for us over the years. It is through your strength and your efforts that our way of life is even possible. And folks, if you see a member of our military when you're out and about, whether it's in the airport, at a restaurant, or wherever you may be, please stop for a moment and tell them thank you. They are our real heroes. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It is such an amazing honor for us to have Next on the Tee be a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. Also want to continue to remind our veterans, please be sure to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. There's a link right there on the armedforcesradionetwork.org site as well. globalvoiceforveterans.org. What a great site with a lot of news and articles and a wealth of information specifically geared towards our veterans out there that I'm sure you're going to find both interesting and beneficial. Again, globalvoiceforveterans.org. All right, now joining me on the French Lick Resort guest line is Mike Landry. Let me give you a little more background on Mike. He is from Eugene, Oregon. He studied at the University of Mary Haben Baylor in Benton, Texas. He has over 20 years experience as a Class A teaching professional and teaching the fundamentals of the game. Over the last 5 years alone, he's given out nearly 8,000 lessons, as well as teaching the game at Cerro Coso Community College in Ridgecrest, California. And I am, like I say, honored that he got up very early for me this morning out in California to be next on the tee with me. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for joining me. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. It's great to be a guest on the show.
I appreciate you being here. So, Mike, let's go all the way back to the beginning for you. When did you start to develop the interest in the game of golf, and who was the first person to put a golf club in your hands?
My father exposed me to the game, and I, growing up in Eugene, Oregon, was, part of the caddy ranks. So was a caddy as a young man, did a lot of caddying at Eugene Country Club, which will be the host of the NCAA men and women's golf this year. So it's going to be nice to watch. So again, through the caddy ranks.
Yeah, and talking about that, I had Dennis Cohn on the show with me last week, and Dennis is the head of the Professional Caddies Association. And I'm curious, caddying seems to be a way that a lot of folks grew up in the game and learned the game and had an appreciation for it. Also have as a job, have an opportunity to earn a part-time living as a kid. I'm curious, talk about the idea of caddies. How did we lose that as an opportunity for people to grow up and to start loving the game like you did?
Well, I think, with the modern courses, more and more cart paths and developments were set up. And I think some of the redesigns of golf courses now are bringing back walkers, which, you get walkers, then you get the caddies back in the game, or again, at bare minimum, the 4 caddies that can, jump on the back of the cart and keep the game moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think part of the game of golf, Mike, in loving the game and appreciation of the game, is also the opportunity you talk about is, to be able to walk the course and to really, for those of us who are, have other jobs and that sort of thing, to be able to take a breath and, kind of relax a little bit and enjoy just the actual, the beauty of a golf course and being outside, as opposed to behind our computers and that sort of thing. I think that's something that we've lost. I hope it's coming back.
I believe it is. I went to late October to Bandon for some rounds of golf with a fellow superintendent. It was at Eugene Country Club, Chris Gaughan, and that's all we did was walk, Bandon, enjoyed the golf game, and, that's truly the beauty. If you could only play 7 times a year, that would be where you should put your money. Be honest with you,
Yeah, so, and talk about that. Bandon Dunes, boy, what, you want to talk about one of the most beautiful golf courses. Anyway, I haven't had the privilege of playing it, but boy, I've just heard so much about it. And if, you talk about a bucket list of golf courses, that you could possibly play. I keep hearing Banded Dunes needs to be right at the top.
The natural lay of the land, the shots you're hitting, you got to have it all.
So, Mike, as a kid who grew up in Eugene, Oregon, how did you end up going to Mary Hardin-Baylor in Benton, Texas for college?
Well, with the rain in Oregon, you're kind of, you want to get out. You want to get out, and even the members in those areas, they get out for the winter because again, once that rain gets locked in, it's reality. So again, I wanted to get to the south, be able to play college golf where a lot of bigger programs. There's a lot of fine players. This way, the program was still being built, and that gave me the opportunity to get an education. Play some college golf at NAIA level, which was a perfect level to play.
So talk about that. Share some of your experiences of playing at that level, getting the opportunity to play college golf, and what that was like for you. Were you prepared for? Is it the pressure cooker that we think playing at whether you get to the college level and then obviously as you climb through the professional ranks. But what was it like for you to get an opportunity to play at the college level?
You're playing for yourself, number one, and then number two, the team's relying on you. So the team's got to be right there at the scoreboard, so everything counts. Mm-hmm. I remember my last year, we were at our conference championship, and I think we were called off the course 3 times. And those 3 times, you kind of lose perspective of where you're at scoring-wise, and I was the last guy out, and then we needed my score. And I actually produced a 69, which is kind of a career low, which is under those conditions it was well needed. So that got us to the national championship for NAIA, the first team I believe from Mary Hardin-Baylor to ever get there. So that was an honor.
So talk about that, as team golf, and we see it at the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup and that sort of thing. But, to your point, is you're out there playing for yourself, but you're also out there playing for your college. And, the guys that are also on the team, it's not always about, winning that golf tournament on an individual level, but collectively you're trying to win a team championship. And as you talk about, getting pulled off the course and then having to come back out and shoot what ended up being a career low for you at that point. Talk about, the pressure of knowing this is what I have to do, not just for me, but for my buddies, my teammates as well.
Yeah, and I think you really stay with percentage golf. You really, in the short game area, you really try to keep it on the ground so that anything can happen. Again, where the creative side can come in practice, but when you're in a team event or your score needs to count, you got to rely on just routines, percentages, because then it'll actually take place, and you got to stay in the game.
I also saw that your alma mater won the American Southwest Conference Golf Championship back in 2014. They're at the Division III level now, and their program currently ranked 15th there. And then one of their players, Matt Hine, is a semifinalist for the Jack Nicklaus Player of the Year award. He's going to be playing in the Division III National Championship. Do you keep up with how the team's doing?
I get the alumni newsletter quite a bit, so I do follow the golf. And then with the golf publications, I do kind of stay hip to what's going on because it is it's a reflection. I mean, because, older, you kind of laid some groundwork and you hope that, that level of program stays current and stays active because it is, important part of the game that, any college, any level has some recognition.
Mm-hmm. Mike, moving on to, your current role in your career as a PGA professional, one of the things I don't think that, we have enough appreciation for is what it takes to become a PGA professional and remain one. Can you take us through what it took for you to become a PGA pro?
I was fortunate, I started out working in Houston, and I had a very good, director of golf, Bill Dowling. And again, it was a team atmosphere because with the golf professionals, the golf shop merchandising person, lady, that made a big impact because everyone stuck together as a team in that respect. And again, with your book work and apprentice program, it's important to stay on it. Because if it's like college, if you get behind, you're in trouble. So the farther ahead you can get, the better off. And then again, just where I'm at now, if you can get through 20 years as a Class A member, then you got some more opportunities to protect your status.
Right. And to that end, right, once you become a PGA pro, it's not like, okay, now I'm in, right? You got to continue to do the things you've got to do to keep that status, right?
Correct. You got that continuing education, and then with that, you want to do stuff you enjoy, the teaching, the coaching contests, and learning with other instructors to where if you wait to the bitter end, then you're going to do workbooks and stuff that has no meaning because we're here to teach and play the game.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, one of the things you specialize in is teaching the short game, which too many of us ignore. We tend to want to focus on trying to bomb it off the tee. But talk about your short game program.
I'm fortunate to where I'm at a 9-hole par 3, which is modern in kind of a big area, Manhattan Beach in Southern California. So again, we're open to newer golfers, golfers that have limited time to where they got an hour and a half to play, and don't have the 5-hour rounds possibly or 4-hour rounds at public facilities. Or again, in the LA area, you have to almost drive an hour to enjoy your round of golf if you're not fortunate enough. But again, with the short game facility, or the 9-hole par 3 I'm here, it's modern enough. Again, if there's no one out here, you can turn it into a par 4 on a couple different holes, which your creative side comes out.
Now talk about the short game itself. What are some of the things, like I say, I've heard so many folks tell me now, what, Chris, and we've heard, legends like Gary Player talk about this, the majority of the game is actually played from 100 yards in. And I think we as amateurs sort of do the inverse. We go to the driving range and we spend our time, hitting drivers as opposed to really, fine-tuning our short game where we have more of an opportunity to shave strokes off of our game than we do by driving the ball. Now, obviously, you keep hitting the ball in the woods and it's going to take you 2 to get out now, so your score goes high. But from a short game perspective, what are some of the things that you try to instill in folks that helps them, become a better short game player?
Just with the setting. So again, if it's a slopey area, kind of look for the high points. If it's a flat area, make sure that you're keeping the ball to where you can, number one, make contact and then be able to let it roll out to where sometimes people want to make a bigger swing that's necessary to where you're better off making something smaller with a lower lofted club, and even mishitting it's going to be better than some of the best shots you may hit.
Yeah, and that's some of the things, right? Some of the misconceptions that we have. What are some of the misconceptions around the short game that we amateurs have that lead us to making more mistakes? And if we did something like, as you just talked about, potentially using a different club, we actually have a better chance of optimizing our scores.
Correct, and I think in the short game area, you just have to look your different levels, your slopes uphill, and know that you're used to seeing the ball roll on the practice putting green. That's where you want to take a club, an 8-iron, 9-iron, set it up in front of the right foot so you can get your body in better position, make contact so that it performs just like you're wanting to roll a putt. To where if you throw it in the air, then it could hit a soft spot, could hit a ball mark. Or this way, if it's going low, you got a chance to really run through it.
And
again,
when we find...
want to save...
No, please, finish your thought.
Oh, no problem. Oh, yeah, you want to save the creative side for practice and team events.
Right. Two trains of thought that I hear a lot about when we are just off the greens, whether that's we're in the fringe or maybe a little bit beyond the fringe. The idea of whether we should putt it from there or we should chip it from there. When you find, when you're telling students, when you find yourself in that sort of a position, what's the better play for us in order to make a lower score?
Again, looking at the surface, if it's all one level of grass and it's somewhat firm, you got a better chance to roll it with the putter. Again, if it's a couple different surfaces, you go from collar into the little thicker rough. Then again, that's where you can use the chipper or something in the chipping setup, or even if it's you got to use your 54 degree, put that ball in front of the right foot, put your body in front so that you make that instant contact. You get it in the air, and it's still got a fighting chance to roll out.
Mm-hmm. A club that's come more into play over the last several years, and I think it's become more popular because of Phil Mickelson, is, the 60-degree wedge. And I think, we all have images of grandeur in our head that we can go out and be Phil Mickelson, and we can take a 60-degree wedge and do some magical things that we see him do. When you're teaching amateurs, and moreover, probably some of the newer players to the game, is a 60-degree wedge something that you think we should have in our bags?
It forces you to make fuller swings, and again, it forces you to, kind of know that at bare minimum with a 60-degree, your backswing, the hands have to be at least waist high or above at bare minimum, because then if not, you're going to have to get too creative. Again, it kind of promotes more of the body motion. So again, that's where when it's a bigger swing, the body can kind of soften things up, as you see with Phil Mickelson, to where if it's a smaller motion, you're going to kind of have a little bit more kind of rush to it, or a little bit of a panic instinct. With the lob wedge or 60, you got to kind of let it be more of a swing and just take what you get.
Right.
So that's where their practice swings are probably the better ones of the 60s. So put a couple balls into play with that imagination, and you got a chance.
Mike, on your site, MikeLandryGolf.com, you talk about, not only the importance of the short game, but also having a short game plan that can be executed consistently under pressure. What are some of the techniques that you teach folks when you're out, trying to, whether it's, you're trying to win at, your local, tournament on your golf course, your member guest, or just out there trying to beat your buddies. But talk about the mental approach to being able to, pull it off when the pressure's on.
Right. Again, just looking at the surroundings, the high, the low, how other people's pitches or shots came in, if they kind of really released quicker or they actually slowed down quite a bit, then that gives you, because then that's where the grain could come into play that you might not see when you're at a pitching distance, because you might not walk up and look at the edge of the green under some circumstances, so that'll kind of come into play. Or even kind of sitting out in the fairway, watching people putt or pitch. And
you mentioned the word grain, and I get a lot of questions. What do people mean by grain? For our listeners, we hear it on the, when we're watching, golf on television and that sort of thing, whether it's, playing with the grain, pitching into the grain of the greens. Talk about what that means.
What it does is, with the grain of the grass, whether it's dull, you're against it, shiny, you're with it, or it could also be going across. So again, kind of when you're in those settings where there's kind of grain predominant, as your ball slows down, it's either going to pull right that direction, pull left, or even slow down quite a bit, or actually be quite a bit quicker. Again, if you're walking around the green, you can look at the edges, pick up on the direction of the grass, or around the cup, you can kind of see the lip outs later in the day. But definitely it has an effect. So in thinking percentage-wise, and if you're against the grain, you almost have to add like a foot to a 10-footer per se, or a foot and a half, or down grain, you could go 80% to get it there with it, being less resistance.
Mm-hmm. I'm talking with Mike Landry, Class A teaching professional here on Next on the Tee. And Mike, a couple more before we let you go. But, you've, like I mentioned at the top, you've done, in the last 5 years alone, nearly 8,000 lessons. What are some of the consistent mistakes that you see that we amateurs are making when we first come to see you?
That's, the beauty of all my lessons are basically 95% of were done on the course, and it's just, watching the routine. Do people walk in from the side, or do they walk in behind? And then again, when they're walking in from behind, they got to have the objective of having their foot line parallel to where they're wanting to go. Because if the foot line's going well right or well left, then that doesn't allow their body to help them out. They get blocked out. So definitely the foot line approach is one of the main things. And then the thing that'll haunt golfers for life is a hand position or grip. So, a lot of students I work with, I give them the molded training grip so that there's no excuse. They can hold it, grab it. Again, I tell them to fit it like a puzzle in their hand because they can fit a puzzle. But to get the hands out of position, then you can't expect to do what the club face is going to do.
So, Mike, as our listeners prepare themselves to go play golf this weekend, what's one of your favorite tips to share that our listeners can use to potentially shave a couple of strokes off their score this weekend?
I think practice swings around the short game area, even on the full swing, doing it with their right heel up in the air, so that they get more balance. They get the proper rotation going through. Again, the worst thing that happens, they feel awkward, but it allows them to get a feel for the balance, and also knowing that in full swings they're going to have their weight instantly on the finished target side. And in the short game, there's no weight shift, so you're on one leg anyway, or weight left to begin with.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And, Mike, before we let you go, how can our listeners find you and follow you both online and over social media as well?
They could go Facebook. They could hunt me down, as well as through Marriott hotels. And then, again, at the website, www.mikelandrygolf.com.
Very good. Mike, thank you again for getting up early out in California to be a part of the show. I really appreciate it. I hope you'll come back and join me again sometime, share more of your thoughts and insights with us. Really enjoyed having you as part of the show today.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Chris, and salute to the troops.
Thank you for saying that. Take care, Mike. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you much. Bye now.
That was Mike Landry, Class A teaching professional. You can find him online again, Mike Landry Golf, and Landry is spelled Landry, so MikeLandryGolf.com. All right, before I get to my next guest, Eric Johnson, I want to give a shout-out to our new friends over at the World Golf Village, located in historic St. Augustine, Florida, just south of Jacksonville. The World Golf Village is the ultimate golf vacation destination and is a true paradise for fans of the game. The Village, as it's referred to by locals, is home of the World Golf Hall of Fame, where the greatest players and contributors are honored, and includes 70,000 square feet of displays, trophies, and personal memorabilia from those golfers and from the game of golf. The World Golf Village boasts 2 championship golf courses, including the King and the Bear, co-designed by Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, and the Sam Snead and Gene Saracen masterpiece, the Slammer and the Squire. Golfers looking to tune up their game before the round, book a lesson there. They've got a great golf school, the PGA Golf Academy, featuring the latest in learning technologies and world-class instructors as well. A luxurious day awaits you at the Renaissance Resorts at the World Golf Village, offering an array of amenities and dining options, premier service, no matter the time of year or the length of your stay, folks. The World Golf Village is sure to deliver an unmatched experience for family and friends and memories to last a lifetime. For more information, go to worldgolfvillage.com or give them a call at 1-800-948-4653. All right, I'm going to get to my next guest, Eric Johnson, on the other side of this station identification.
You're listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, heard around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
Now back with me and making his 5th appearance on the French Lick Resort guest line is Eric Johnson. Let me remind you about Eric's background. He was a 4-year letterman at Mississippi State from 1992 to 1995, earned his degree in professional golf management. He remains in the Bulldogs' top 20 for the most rounds played. Eric has been the director of instruction at Oakmont Country Club since 2004, and Golf Magazine has named him a top 100 teacher every year since 2011. He was also recognized by Golf Digest as a top 40 under 40 teacher. He is a 3-time Tri-State PGA Teacher of the Year. He is also He's also a 2-time winner of the Horton Smith Award, which recognizes the teaching professional for their contributions to education. He is also on the advisory staff for TaylorMade Adidas Golf. He has played on the Canadian Tour, the Sunshine Tour, and the Golden Bear Tour, and he is one of my all-time favorite guests here on Next on the Tee. Good morning, Eric. Thanks for joining me again this morning, my friend.
Chris, my man, how you doing, buddy?
I'm fantastic, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'll tell you what, we got a heck of a day here at Oakmont today. It's like one of those Wyoming sunsets. I wish you could see it. I mean, it's these blue sky and like a Wyoming day. I mean, blue sky, about 60 degrees here this morning. We are in phenomenal shape. The golf course is going to be quite a test for the guys coming up here in about, 39 days, I think.
That's right. So, and that's the thing, Eric, right? We're all looking forward and looking ahead to the U.S. Open up there in Oakmont. We know the course can be ready for a major at a moment's notice, but curious, how are things coming together?
It's as good as I've ever seen it this time of year. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. The greens are perfect. The rough's getting there. We've had some rain, and you can just see the rough growing. You know, it's just unbelievable. I think these guys are going to have their hands full. We had Jordan Spieth in the other day, and he played. And, said, listen, if I shoot par here, it'd be awesome. I'd take par right now. And I think
right?
He went out and played 9 holes on Tuesday, got in about 6 o'clock and played 9 holes. Made probably the coolest, pitch in on the 18th hole I've ever seen. Everyone's standing around watching him. He flops it in. Impossible shot. I would have taken 5 to get down from there. He holds it. It was awesome. Yeah.
So are you starting to see more and more players come in and getting in practice rounds, or was Jordan the first?
Yeah, no, we've had a couple in. We've got Tim Mickelson in with his star from Arizona State University, the number 1 ranked amateur in the world, who's playing in the Open, and Steve's out there right now as we speak. And
wow.
Steve and Tim, they're out on the golf course, but we're seeing more of them come. And right now the golf course is absolutely perfect. So, if the weather is correct, 5 over par would be my guess.
Is that right?
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, I mean, if it's firm and fast the way we want it, and the way it's off to this start this year, 5 over is going to win this championship.
And you mentioned rough a minute ago. Give our listeners an idea. How thick and how tall are you expecting the rough to be come tournament time?
Yeah, it's not going to be terrible on the first cut, but the graduated rough will get to 6 to 8 inches. And when you're in that stuff, good luck. Just good luck finding it actually, but getting it out is another thing. But it will be this test of golf this year for the Open. We have no condition issues this year. I mean, it is flawless out there right now. I can't wait to see it on TV.
Yeah, and as you mentioned that, Eric, one of the things that I tell our listeners all the time and have other people comment on when we talk about, Augusta National and the Masters is one thing that TV doesn't do justice to Augusta National is the undulations and the changes in elevation. The drops and the rises and the subtleties. You think about Georgia and you think about the South. You don't necessarily think about big hills, but there are a lot of big hills out there at Augusta National. Talk about Oakmont. What is some of the beauty or some of the things that we are not going to get a full appreciation of by watching it on TV versus actually being out there?
Well, and you're right about that too, Augusta. I mean, the first time I was there, I couldn't believe it. And the first time I played, you can't believe how big a hill it is on 10 and 9. I mean, coming up the hill on 9 and then down on 10. I mean, it's incredible. And you wouldn't think that it would be that way, but I think what you're going to see here, and they've already done a lot of talking about it, but we have removed. We admit the 5,000, but I think it's more like 10. But we've taken out about 10,000 trees around the property, and it truly looks like a truly linked style golf course. And I don't think that typically you think high ball flight and you need a high ball flight and maybe even a cut to win a U.S. Open, but I think that you're going to see a lot of on the ground stuff here this year. I mean, the first hole, it's straight downhill for about the last 140 yards, and it runs a lot. And I just think that you're going to see the high-end soft stuff, but, you're going to see the players use kind of the slopes, use the running areas, so to speak, and it's going to be fun to watch these guys play here.
And Eric, as you talk about all the trees you guys took out, and that's not just because you guys decided to redesign the course, and keep me honest here, but this is more getting back to what the original design of Oakmont was, right?
Yeah, the original designs really didn't have anything. It was a farmland, and Mr. Phones actually, there's great, stories and documentation how he went out in horse and buggy and drove around, and he finally found the property. He said, "This is it. This is what I want." And so there really wasn't many trees on it at all. And then in the 50s, we had a gentleman named Fred Brand who had a tree farm nursery and said, "Wouldn't that be great if we planted a bunch of trees in here?" And so we still have people come up to us and say, "I donated to the tree fund in 1954." Well, thank you, but that's now firewood. But it's sorry, but and they just really overplanted it, and it got to the point where in '94 it was so choked off by trees, we had to make a change. It wasn't really good for viewing. It wasn't good for growing the golf course, and we really couldn't get all the 50,000 fans onto the golf course because of all the trees. So we started a massive program. Took a bunch of years. Took a bunch of votes. Actually hurt some feelings on some people, but there's some hard feelings there. But still, I think once people see how good the golf course looks, it was well worth the hassle of cutting them down. Yeah.
Eric, do you get the players or the caddies coming to you to kind of pick your brain, particularly maybe some of the younger guys who don't have a ton of experience playing the course?
Yeah, I have a couple guys. I'm sending an email out to some of the other guys on the top 100 teachers, and I've been here. I was an assistant here in '94, '95, '6, and '7, 13 years back, and I still have the pin sheets from 2007. And I don't know where they're going to put the pins, but there are some of the Sunday pins and the pins that you just know they're going to be there. So they'd be crazy if they didn't. And I did go around with a few groups last year and show them the golf course and show them where I thought, things would be. And I don't know. I mean, that's not something that, I know where the pins are. I don't. That's, between the USGA and they don't tell us. But we've got a good idea where they'll be. And, you can, the difference is one or two shots, that's what wins Opens. And, if you had that little inside course knowledge, I mean, Tiger played, I think it was 8 practice rounds before 2007, and he knew the golf course very, very well. And I think that's the preparation that you see, the greats do. They just know.
And Eric, the greens there are absolutely legendary. And for those of us who have never had the experience of putting on those greens, talk about the intricacies of the green, plus, the legendary speed that we'll be watching here in a couple of months.
Well, the speed, no question about it, and it's hands down probably some of the fastest greens in the world. I've played Augusta, and I played here, obviously, a bunch, and I can tell you without certainty ours are faster. And there's no question. And the funny thing about it is when we get them firm and fast, that's the combination that makes it so awesome. I mean, the run out of those, they'll run out 3, 4, 5 feet. I mean, and it's just really awesome to watch it. And so the players are going to have to really pay attention here to Oakmont. Not only are they fast, but they're a lot more undulated than what people think. Like, for example, the 12th hole, it slopes from front to back, which is very different from most golf courses. Most of the golf courses, the greens slope from back to front. We're front to back on that one, so it runs away from you. So any good shot that's not hit just perfect will still keep running away to the back of the green. So they are some tricky greens. And, some of the speeds, and I've been here for 94. I've been here for the 2007. I've been here for the 2010 Open. They were not as fast as we could make them. We had to slow them down. The USGA would not let us have them where we could get them. no question we could have had him 2 or 3 feet faster. But
oh my,
that is a true story about having to slow the greens down. That's true. I've seen it.
Wow.
Yep.
And Eric, you mentioned Jordan Spieth being out there a moment ago, and you're one of the very best teachers of the game anywhere on the planet, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on what from a mental side, and are we all making too much of what we saw from Jordan Spieth at Augusta? I think so many people are afraid that this is going to somehow derail his career because and on some level we saw Rory McIlroy, who was openly talked about how Augusta is in his head after his final round 80 back in 2011, and that has cost him a possible green jacket back then. But what do you think going forward for Jordan? He seems like such a mature kid who's mature well beyond his years. Do you think it's going to stick with him?
Chris, I really don't know. I can just tell you this. When you saw what happened at Augusta, and my take on it is that, listen, he was not in his best form. I don't think anybody's going to debate that coming in. I mean, he had not been in his best form. I think he went chasing the world money, and I think he got pretty tired, and I think he got run down a little bit. And he was not clearly, he did not have his best stuff. No one's going to debate me on that. I'm
right.
Sure of that. But
yep.
Then he got off to a great start with a 66 and thought, okay, well, here I am. And he had that pressure again, and then on the third round, and still in the lead. And you could definitely tell that he was not comfortable with his game the whole week. In fact, I've never seen him. He's not a fast player, but he was definitely painfully slow during Augusta, and all the twitching and the back to the towel. I mean, he was not comfortable. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so are we making too much out of it? You know what? Some of those things are very hard to forget. I mean, your memory is a tough thing. I think he's probably the most grounded human being I've ever seen. And just to, share a couple stories, I mean, Tiger came in and played 8 practice rounds and actually said, if anyone follows me, I'll walk off the golf course. Now, Jordan Spieth took pictures with every kid that was around and didn't call and say, no one can watch me tee off or practice or do anything like that. So, I mean, when you talk about how great of a human being Jordan Spieth is, I mean, that was tremendous to me. I mean, I'm on Facebook and I'm like, hey, look at this kid got his picture with Jordan. This guy got his picture with Jordan. Everybody has a picture with Jordan. I mean, it was incredible, And then Tiger just was not that kind of person. I mean, Tiger, had 2 police officers with him everywhere he went, and then they kind of locked him in one of the phones room, and he ate by himself, and it was a totally different experience. Jordan's walking through the club saying hi to everyone, thanking everyone. So I hope it doesn't stick with him. He did hit it out of bounds on the 18th hole, and which is shocking to me because that's 50 yards offline.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he piped the next one right down the middle. And I know he's playing a practice round, I get it, but that's pretty far offline. And, he is hitting some loose shots, and we saw it at Augusta. On the 4th hole, I mean, shit, he hit it up in the, trees on a par 3. It should have gone out of bounds, and you can't get that ball up and down. There's no way. And he flops it up there and makes a 10-footer. And that's the thing that was keeping him in the game. So there's shades of brilliance in there, but there's definitely a couple of loose shots in there. I hope we don't see it. I think the next time I'd see all these pictures of him on the spring break trip, and hopefully he got that out of his system a little bit. But, I don't know what that was all about, but it looked like those boys were having fun on that spring break. But so hopefully he got it out of his system there. Hopefully he needed a little, some downtime.
Yeah, but, to your point about some of these loose shots, and you're right, we saw it, come into play. We saw it at the end of the round, end of the 3rd round, right, when he bogeyed 17 and 18.
Exactly, because bogey double, I mean, that stuff never happens. Just very odd.
Yeah, so, I mean, as it sort of, gets its way in there every once in a while, and I think that's how, we start to lose it mentally, right? Because now all of a sudden we're not sure what's going to happen when we're at the tee. And for amateurs or for a player as great as Jordan Spieth is, that's got to be playing on your mind, doesn't it? That, hey, all right, I'm going to stand up here, but I might hit it right down the middle, or I might hit it 50 yards out of bounds. How does that happen? How do we get that much? That's awfully loose for a guy of his nature or his stature.
Well, there's no question about it. And, I think if you were to look at, we always, compare everyone to Tiger because I think he set the bench so high. When you watch Tiger, I just don't think, even in when he wasn't comfortable, he sat in there, committed 100% to the shot and hit it. And I think that was, if I had one, suggestion to Jordan, and, listen, he's number 2 player in the world. I don't think he really needs to really worry too much about what I'm saying, but if I were to draw one thing that I would tell him, I would say, Jordan, you got to clean up those little right shots, because to me it's a little bit of, it's a little bit over-rotated. The foot kind of flops, the right foot kind of flops over, a little over-rotated. And, the commitment to every shot is what I would say. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's good, bad, right, or wrong. Commit 100% and let it go. I mean, but the whole, trying to convince yourself that it's the correct shot, I never, ever in my life saw Tiger do that. I mean, Tiger set up, he picked the shot, and then he hit it. Now, we saw him, stop his downswing a couple times, but I've never, when you think about 100% laser focus to the task, Tiger had that. Good, bad, right, or wrong. And I think that you saw that from the Canadian Open back in, I think it was 96 or 97 when he won, and he was 216 out of the bunker and, over the lake and hit a 6-iron on the green. Everyone's commentated, well, it looks like he's going, oh, my God, wait a minute, he's aiming at the hole, he hit it, it was crazy. He hits it on the green. He committed 100%. And there was nothing that was backing him down. And, and I guess that comes back to me, how I categorize that. There's no fear of success and there's no fear of failure. He's going to let the shot go. There's no fear of success or the failure. And I think that, when I see Jordan, I just see him a little bit, tentative and not really quite committing maybe 100% to what he's doing. I know, it's a nervous situation. And I thought it was great when Nick Faldo said, I won the Masters 3 times, and I only led the Masters for a total of 9 holes. A total. Right. And Jordan had the lead for, 8 days in a row. From, 2015 to 16. So, he was in a pressure-packed situation. And, as you know, pressure exposes the weakest link. And that's the way it always is. Whether it's a chain or whether it's a human being, pressure is going to expose that, And so I think we saw a little bit of that there.
But, and to just take that a little, a half a step further, Eric, I think that's a lesson, to all of us who play the game, right? Committing to the shot, right? I think that's how, particularly in your short game, when you see, when we chunk it or we skull it or whatever, it's because we haven't fully committed to the shot that, that we've envisioned, right? We think, well, maybe it'll work. And then, we either, we move our head or we do whatever it is. We decel the shot, and then all of a sudden that's when you chunk it, which may be what happened to Jordan on 12. But, I think that's a lesson for everybody, is it not? Once you've decided what you want to do, just go ahead and let it go. Because if you don't, the bad things that you're imagining are going to happen are going to happen.
You got it 100%. Yeah. When you think about, I'm not a sports psychologist, but I have gone to a lot of them. And I'm not, I'm afraid to admit that. I've gone to a lot of them. There's a lot of stuff in my head that goes on and around. And, really, when you think about it, the best, if I could just, go off on this for a second, but
sure.
This is something I love to talk about because, mentally, you're in a little internal conversation in your own brain all the time. You could be sitting there listening to the radio right now going, what in the world is this guy talking about? Or, yeah, I do that, and what is it, and what did I have for dinner? You're in this little internal conversation all the time. And the best way I've ever heard it explained is like the thoughts in my head are like the bubbles on the bottom of a champagne glass, and they just keep coming up. And they're never, you're the greatest player of all times, just go commit to it. It's like, man, there's a bunker over there, and Halton Road is right off number 1 here, and if I hit it out of bounds, I lose the Open, and, there's a lot of bunkers, and then there's the gallery, and there's a lot of conversation going on there. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, what you got to try to do is try to flatten the bubbles. And the more those bubbles come up in your head, those thoughts keep coming up, I like to say to them, hey, thanks for sharing that, but I intend to do this right now. And you put it back towards intention. Not what could, what if, intent. I intend to hit a draw down the right side of the fairway and put it right in the middle. And then once you start committing to that, because long story short, I was going to be the youngest club champion ever at Titusville Country Club. It was going to mean the world to me. It's 36-hole final. Everyone used to drive around in the carts. That's when everyone used to follow the matches. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had a one-up lead, one-up with one to go. It was going to be the youngest champ ever. I hit a shank, and it was an epic shank. I mean, and I hadn't shanked it. I was worried about the tee shot, and drove it right down the middle. Boom! Hit it out of bounds. End up making the 6. I lose in the first hole of the playoff. I was crushed, and I'm telling you, I was playing Division I Southeastern Conference. I was playing with Stuart Sink, and I'll never forget it. We're on the 7th hole. I'm pulling a sand wedge back, and all of a sudden I hear in my brain, don't shank it, don't shank it. I mean, so I stop. I'm looking around like, who said that, Stuart's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's like, what's going on? I had nothing, Stuart. I just, got to refocus here, and it was, so those thoughts are in there. And you have to flatten those bubbles. You can't let this, when that stuff starts happening, man, I hope I don't chunk it. That's when you say to yourself right now, okay, I intend to do this. And after a while, once you start training your brain, those thoughts, they dissipate. They won't, it's like the champagne went flat. And that is something that the mental perspective is so underrated, and that's why I'm hoping, I just think Jordan's so grounded and is such a good human being that I'm hoping he can, kind of flatten that out and get rid of it. But, I see Mr. Palmer, and he's still talking about losing the 62 Open to Nicklaus, and still telling me that he had 13 3-putts for the week, and Jack had 0, so I way out ball striked him, and you're right. Yes, Mr. Palmer, that's like, 60 years ago, sir, maybe 50, maybe we ought to move it, but it still upsets him to this day.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Time will tell, I guess. I hope it doesn't crush him, but a meltdown like that, we never saw Tiger do anything like that. And I
right.
guess so. I'm not trying to draw too much from that, but we never saw Tiger. I've never saw him do anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? I mean, can you remember one time where he melted down? I mean, like.
Well, we've seen that lately, right? A couple, over the last few years.
Well, that's what I meant, Tiger in his prime. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
But now, shoot, they say he's playing here, and good luck. You come off of surgeries, and he's had 11 surgeries now, and you're not hitting full shots, and now he's hitting a few, and now you're going to come over and take on Jason Day and Oakmont. Okay, good luck. I would love to see him. We'll see. Time will tell on that.
Yeah, you got to wonder about that, Eric, right? If that were actually to take place, right? And I guess it is, everything is, a battle in your mind, right? And if you would have to think he's just coming there to see where, the status of his game, right? I mean, we've heard forever that Tiger isn't going to play in a tournament unless he thinks he can win. And, from a get your mind right, with coming into Oakmont, it's just got to be in his mind. And I would hope he would say this, in news conference or in his, conferences and stuff like that when he's in meeting with the media. Like, look, I'm just coming here trying to, get my game in shape. I got no, thoughts that I'm going to win this thing. Because if you go in there thinking that you could win, and you go and God forbid, he shoots some crazy high score, right? You're talking about 5 over winning this thing, which means, guys are going to be shooting in the low to mid 70s, right? On a regular basis. A lot of the field, maybe even in the upper 70s for the back end of the field. If he were to come in there and throw a couple of 82s at you, boy, you got to really start to wonder how that plays on his mind and, thinking I'm going to win this thing or thinking I can be competitive. And now I've come out to Oakmont and I've shot a pair of 80s, what that does to him, coming off of, the shanks, you talk about shanks, the shanks that he was doing with the chipping game with the last time we saw him.
It's
and
unbelievable.
then you throw that. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, Chris, I'm telling you, what we've seen, and I don't want to make too much of this, but I really think that we have seen the collapse of the greatest athlete that has ever happened. I mean, he was poetry in motion. 2000 Tiger, that to 2009 to 8-9, he was flawless. I mean, it was poetry in motion. Now, it's almost like he's trying to outsmart himself. He's trying to get the smartest teachers and the biomechanists and the guys that are looking at TrackMan, and all they do is spend numbers. And we're going to talk about force and ground force reaction, and guys, that doesn't have anything to do with the game of golf. I mean, you're ruining players, and I think that he's lost. I think he's totally lost. I mean, gone through the shanks. I mean, the short game stuff, I mean, that all has to weigh on your brain at some point. And,
right.
Listen, I think that I think they've taken him down, each instructor, with the exception maybe of Hank. I think the last guys have maybe taken him down into a mechanical world and a mechanical scientific world where I just don't think Jack ever thought about something like that. I mean, Jack just got up there and hit golf balls. I mean, I spent enough time with Mr. Flick to know, and Mr. Flick was one of my true mentors of the game. I mean, I miss him every day. I think about him every day, Jim Flick. I miss him to death, and he got to share a lot of stuff that he used to talk about with Jack. Jack never thought about TrackMans and numbers and biomechanics. He had a ball flight in mind, and he wanted to hit it, and he hit that ball flight. I mean,
right.
End of story. So I don't know where he's living, mentally right now but to me, he looks like he's totally lost in the mechanical, golf scientific world. And that's, there's two ways to play. There's field and then there's the engineers. But, man, I think he was a field player that's trying to be an engineer, and that's not working.
Right, and just and I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but to that point, Eric, you talk about Mr. Nicklaus, and one of the things that he talks about frequently is being responsible for your own game. Like when things would start to go wrong for him, he wasn't always running back to Jack Grout or Jim Flick, in his career trying to figure out, because he knew what was going on and he could correct. And he's a genius on many levels, but a genius with the swing because he could correct his own swing. In mid-swing, he could feel like when he was getting too far, this way or that way, and he could correct it. And we've all heard the story many times at the U.S. Open on 17 when at Pebble Beach when he hit the flagstick that he felt like, oh, my hands are here and I need to change, and boom, right next to the pin. So is that a thing? Could Tiger be too reliant on so many voices in his head from so many coaches? It may not just even be Tiger, but are guys too worried about every time something may start to go wrong, they're too reliant on someone to go running back to them to get instruction as opposed to at that level you would think they should have an idea of what's going wrong with their own swings.
Well, no question about it. I mean, I'm going to say this by answering it two ways. John Daly and Jim Furyk, okay? You go, what do you mean? They're still playing, right? Jim Furyk has not the most pleasing, aesthetically, that's not a pleasing swing to the eye. And he has made now $70 million on tour and still playing, so there's nothing wrong with uniqueness. I mean, heck, John Daly, even the train wreck that he is, I mean, he's still out there playing, and you go, okay, where's Tiger? What happened? Well, he's trying to be perfect or this. And you know what? Why don't you just go play the game? And it's such a simple message that I can't believe someone can't get it to them.
Right.
Go play. Go do what you used to do, and that was hit golf shots. You don't play golf swing. You play golf. And there's nothing wrong with uniqueness. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing wrong with uniqueness whatsoever. You look at the Davis Loves, you look at the Freddie Couples, they've looked like they've had Bernard Langer. That swing has looked the same his entire career. And Bernard Langer, he's the ageless wonder. My God, he was doing what he did at the Masters this year. I thought he had a shot. Unfortunately, I don't think either one of those two players played very good in that group. And who knows what happened there? But he had a shot to win at 59.
Right.
That's amazing. He never changed that golf swing.
Right.
Come on. That's absurd.
All right, so let's bring it back in a little bit, Eric, and I want to get to some of the instruction that you have on your website, which is absolutely fantastic. One more about as we look forward to the Open. We've got, you look back and you mentioned Jason Day not long ago, and he was hitting 385-yard drives at the PGA Championship. Length is length going to make for Bubba Watson and Jason Day and the Bombers out there, Dustin Johnson? Is that going to be a huge advantage for them at Oakmont, or is it? Because the greens are so hard and firm and fast, is it really the guys that have imagination and really are really good around the greens and can putt the ball really well? Is that more of an advantage versus bombing the ball?
Well, I think the Bombers always have an advantage. I really do. I think that, if you can cut the length of this golf course to where you're not worried about it, I think a Bomber is going to do that. You look at the past champions of, Hogan and Nicholas and Johnny Miller. I mean, there's a combination there of, pretty precise guys. And then Cabrera wins, and so, I think you got to be pretty creative. I think, Bomber will have a better chance here. But then again, on the same breath, I like a guy like Zach Johnson, very precise, phenomenal putter, unbelievable short game. I like it. I love it. Jason Day here. I would have said Jordan Spieth, beforehand, and the way he putted and the way his short game is around here, I think it'd be awesome. But if his full swing would cooperate, so to speak.
Right.
So there's I think Dustin Johnson could play well here. Bubba Watson played good here in 2007. So it'll be it's always a very interesting leaderboard here at Oakmont because, you see there's that combination of, the Bombers and then the accurate great putters, and you have to be a great putter here. Ernie Els, won in 94, was hitting it long and putting it beautifully. So, I think it'll probably be more of a long guy, but I think a guy like Zach Johnson would really if I was in Europe, I'd put a couple pounds on him. That's what I'd say.
And Eric, I love your website, ericjohnsongolf.com. I was looking at it yesterday and today. You redesigned it lately, didn't you?
Yeah, we put a couple new things on there, tried to change it up a little bit, a couple of new photos from a photo shoot we did here, and, it'll be in golf.com, and the guys at Golf Magazine are, great guys. There's some great stuff in there, and so, yeah, I redid it a little bit. And
one of the things that I was taking a look at is your indoor instructional facility that you have up there. Looks fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. We just hit the garage door, the door goes up, we hit right on the range at Oakmont, got the heaters above us, we've got a TrackMan and the V1 video and all that stuff, and it's a heck of a spot if you're getting the winter doldrums like we do up here, but, from October to, May or so, really, March, really, but, it's a great studio. Oakmont's done a great thing here.
I'm talking to Eric Johnson, Golf Magazine Top 100 Instructor and the Director of Instruction at Oakmont Country Club here on Next on the Tee. Eric, just a couple more before we let you go. One of the instructional videos that you have that I love is how to roll it close from off the greens. And sometimes I think it's hard for we amateurs to decide whether we should be chipping or just off the green. Talk about that and how we can roll it close if we find ourselves in that position.
Yeah, one of the things that, Chris, I always talk about, and Mr. Palmer gave me this advice at the Palmer Cup matches, and, he said, listen, if you can putt it, putt it. If you can't putt it, then it's a chip, and if you can't chip it, now it's a pitch. And honestly, I putt it every chance I can get it. Listen, my nerves aren't what they are, and, and I just don't want to try to hit a little chip or pitch off of a real tight line, and I putt it every time I can. And that has saved me hundreds of strokes. And, when you do it over in Europe and Scotland, you see those guys do it all the time. That's how the game's supposed to be played. Don't try to take a 60-degree wedge off a tight lie and with nothing in front of you. Bap a putter up there and get it up there somewhere. We forget that pars are really good scorers,
Right. Right. And it's something that I was talking to Mike Landry prior to you, but I think, certainly one of the clubs that has become more and more popular over the years, and I think we can all thank Phil Mickelson for it, is a 60-degree wedge. But I think one of the things, and I've seen it on your site, and I agree with it. I think one of the things that we amateurs have fooled ourselves is when we see Phil pulling off some of these unbelievable shots with that 60-degree wedge, around the green. I think we've got images of grandeur in our heads, and that 60-degree wedge, particularly as you just mentioned, from a tight lie, is very difficult to pull off. Is that something, when you look at all of our golf bags now and amateurs that you are working with, is that a club that you think is beneficial for whether it's a mid-handicapper or a high-handicapper?
Yeah, I think that I love a 64-degree wedge. I have one in my bag, and I think that people should have a lot of loft. But you only need to use that a couple times around. I just think that Phil's so good and makes it look so simple that everyone thinks, well, I'm just going to take my 60 and take it off this really tight lie. That is a very hard shot. And most of the time we see their balls right back at their feet, because they just hit it and roll it back to them. But, get it on the ground and run, and I promise you it'll save you a bunch of strokes. I promise you.
Eric, remind our listeners, how can they find you and follow you, whether that's online or over social media as well?
Yeah, it's ericjohnsongolf.com. I'm on Facebook, too. I've got a Twitter account, Eric Johnson Golf, and not many people are following me, but because I don't Twitter much, but I appreciate you guys, and I just, Chris, I love your show. Your preparation of the show is all world, and the introduction had me blushing today. I was going to yell stop, 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 but I appreciate it, and I just really want to shout out to the soldiers out there, men and women out there. Shoot straight, get those bad guys. We're thinking of you guys every day, and, the soldiers are the reason that we have freedom. And it's not from a politician, I can guarantee you that. So keep your heads down out there, guys. Good luck.
I appreciate you saying that, Eric. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Eric. You're absolutely one of my favorite guests here on the show. Certainly a guy that I would have in my dream five-star, because not only are you a great guy, you also make every time you come on the show so much fun for me to be a part of as well. So thank you for doing it again today. I can't thank you enough for all the support you've had for me in this show.
Hey, buddy, anytime. Let's do it again. Let's do it during the Open. We'll see if any of these picks are coming out.
You're on, my friend. Eric.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Chris.
All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
That is top 100 instructor Eric.
The Salute Military Golf Association was created to provide rehabilitative golf experiences to the brave men and women who have been wounded while serving our country. Hi, I'm Jim Estes, PGA Golf Pro and co-founder of the Salute Military Golf Association. With my adaptive golf program, we've successfully helped thousands of soldiers in their recovery, both mentally and physically. The SMGA has been providing family-inclusive golf experiences across the country since 2007. To date, the SMGA has equipped more than 1,000 warriors with properly fitted golf clubs and has extended its clinic series to more than 8 chapter and affiliate locations across the U.S. If you are a wounded veteran interested in participating, or if you'd like to learn more about the Salute Military Golf Association and find a chapter closest to you, visit our website at smga.org. We've seen firsthand how impactful golf can be in aiding one's recovery. The Salute Military Golf Association, empowering wounded veterans one fairway at a time. Visit smga.org. That's smga.org.
Yeah, Jim and the great folks over at the Salute Military Golf Association are doing some fantastic things. Again, to find out more information and how you can get involved, go to smga.org. All right, everybody, my sincere thanks again to Mike Landry and Eric Johnson for making today's show so much fun to be a part of. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Please also check out our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, with me and my co-host Bob Lazare and our announcer Joe Lajanusa. That show airs live every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can stream it live on Blog Talk Radio as well as the Armed Forces Radio Network as well. That show, like this one, is also available as a podcast on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player.fm, SoundCloud. We're all over the net. You can find both shows there. Please also, when you think about Thursday Night Tailgate on the football side, we do it year-round, folks, and we have, great players from the NFL and the CFL joining us every single week. We're official partners.
You've been listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA legends, pros and top instructors, and media members go to tell their stories. Join us same time every Saturday to hear more stories about the game we love from the people who love sharing those stories with you. It's all about the great game of golf. It's all about the great game of golf.